Evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Golf Facilities Exploratory Committee. It is Thursday, April 17th, and it is 5:37 p.m. Do we have a motion to call this meeting to order?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, very good. Gentlemen, first thing on our agenda this evening is the meeting minutes. There was a copy sent earlier today. I was able to review them. I found everything in order. If there was anyone who might have had a question about something in them, that would be the time to mention it. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 20, February 25th, and March 6, 2025.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We'll move on to all business. Tonight we have another appointment with Kurt Raber, architect at Catalyst Architectural Interiors, and we're here to discuss the concepts of the clubhouse that we are planning to have. So Kurt, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay. I've got some slides, and some of it is, a lot of it's math on Excel and spreadsheets and trying to figure out what would the building of X size cost? And then how do we take the program of the things that we thought we might put into this building and simplify it, mush it, chew on it, get it down to a manageable square footage number, which results in a manageable budget. It's been tough. When we were here last time, I learned that the committee, sort of with the selectmen's help, and instructed or given a budget goal of 3.5 million all in, and I talked about taking off the top at least 20-25% to reserve for soft costs and a contingency, and then what did that leave us for the building? So we've crunched those numbers a little bit more, given some of the other numbers that we've got on some other public projects in recent months. I think it's going to be tough to get the building done under budget. But anything and everything is possible. I think we just have to be cautious about size, cautious about height and volume, and then, of course, cautious about finishes and other selections. And, we talked about that the building doesn't need to be, the country club at the Mass, at Augusta. It's not the country club in Brookline, right? It's more of a practical design. It wants to have an agricultural look. So what we did is we started to kind of dive into, on a pad of paper, we just wrote down every space that we thought we should have in the building, started to doodle into some floor plans, which we've refined it in the next few pages, or 3 versions of a plan, trying to get it smaller and tighter as it goes on. And then the page that follows that is the program. And so we could maybe turn to the program page, which is right after the floor plan diagrams, and stare at that for a few minutes. I'll explain it. What we did here is we just took our list of spaces in the clubhouse and in the cart barn, wrote those down, gave them a width and a length, and calculated the area, calculated the occupancy based on the building code, whether it's office space or assembly space or dining space, and then also a potential height and volume, just because I was curious. And then talked a little bit about the adjacencies of what that space should be next to, and also a little brief description of what it is. So we came up with a list of about a dozen spaces to be in the clubhouse portion of the project, and then 3 simple spaces in the cart barn. And this program can be used for a one building scheme where the clubhouse is above the carts in a basement level, or it could be in 2 separate buildings. And when we get to the sort of schemes on the spreadsheets, I looked at a one building scheme twice, the two building scheme 3 times, and each time trying to massage it down, making it a little bit smaller, a little bit more cost effective. So this program that I added up in my mind, before right-sizing it to your project, was just everything I might put in a nice public golf course, clubhouse, and cart building. And I came up with 4,576 square feet in the clubhouse portion and 4,700 in the cart barn, but that probably could be pushed down and massaged into 4,500 as well. So we're right around the 9,000 to 9,300 square feet. Down at the bottom, I did identify that this plan with a dining room that's 40 by 30, is 1,200 square feet, has an occupancy of 80 people at tables and chairs. Covered deck portion or a pavilion to the rear of the dining room at the same size would have the other 80. That would get us a full flight of 144 golfers, plus a couple of admin people, plus service staff, of an occupancy of 160 people dining or serving in that space or combined spaces. So with sort of this program in mind, we'll step back to the plan diagrams. And the first one, which is called plan option number 1 down at the bottom of the box, this is the 4,760 gross square feet measured to the perimeter walls of all these spaces. And what we did is we just graphically, in the CAD, drew a box to match the size of our program and started to manipulate it on the page to get everything to sort of flow and try to be as close to our program in total square footage, and try to align these spaces in the way we would, probably see them. And the idea here was that the front entrance is somewhere between where the existing clubhouse building is today, or a little bit further back beyond the deck. As we talked about last time, the one building scheme, the grades are actually work pretty well there for a stacked building where the current tent is. It's a little bit more excavation, but this building could also move to where the practice tee is, or practice green is now. So this building isn't really taking into these plan diagrams aren't really taking into consideration of the orientation of the building if it were on the practice green, but it does, in my mind, is this building is sort of set right where the tent is. The front door is facing the parking lot. The dining room faces the 18th hole. The pavilion is out even further, and around 3 sides of the pavilion you can see the 18th, the 1st, and I think it's 6 and 7. 6 is to the right. So this is just the notion of how you enter the building, what you encounter first, the pro shop, the restrooms, and that was really on purpose to kind of that transient traffic that kind of comes in and out of the clubhouse just to use the restrooms at the turn. Then there was a pro office and storage room for the pro shop, a GM office, and then just this kind of kitchen, back of house stuff. After drawing this, this closely matches our plan. That would be great. Option number 2 was looking at trying to think of the pavilion as in a different way, and it's virtually the same plan at the front of the house or at the bottom of the page, but the dining room is turned so that the dining room sticks out a little bit closer to the golf course, and then that looks through this wraparound porch, which could be a 3-season room, and I imagine that the wall between the dining room and the wraparound is really perforated with lots of door openings, double door openings, so that you could have a group of 150 plus people sitting in these combined spaces for a banquet setting. This got a little smaller, 4,680 square feet. The scheme 3, purposely tried to keep the dining room for the, at 80 people, but we could play with the balance, between inside and outside. I made the outdoor wraparound porch 2 sides, and this was really an experiment. I was like, what can we start to shrink to get back down close, somewhere between 4,000 and 3,500 square feet, which is where I think we need to be to meet our budget. I hadn't talked to Dana about whether he really needs an office, right? If we decided, hey, there's things in here we don't need, or could be downstairs in a basement. I assumed that underneath the kitchen area, I would have a mechanical electric room where our sprinkler service would come in, our water service, our water heaters. We could even have some laundry down there underneath the kitchen to kind of serve the physical plant of the building. If it's a single-use building as a clubhouse and the carts are in the separate building, perhaps the pro shop, the lobby, and the dining room are a slab on grade or an unexcavated basement. So that's kind of 3 plan options to kind of where we started. Now, I have lots of little sketch paper sketches of other buildings and other orientations of things and sort of other paths. And I tried to do one that was a little bit more horizontal in its setting. But I always ended up kind of coming back to and liking the building with the dining room and the porch around the back that really had the view of the golf course. Oops, let my machine sleep.
In all of these options, the outdoor porch can be, like the walls can kind of be like brought down for, so like for the outings where like you have some people in the dining room, and then people that are on the outdoor porch, they can kind of all be like inclusive, right?
Right, so we've done plenty of sort of open air porches. We've gone back and put glass panels in. We've taken out railings and put glass railings in so that you can see the golf course, which is typically lower than the deck, which is nice, but also blocks wind. At my Comet out on Nantucket, we actually used a roller screen, which comes down, and for when you're inside, you can look out and you can see quite a bit of daylight. When you're outside looking in, it's very dark and very hard to see the people seated behind it. But the wind goes from 60 to 0 inside. They have radiant heaters overhead at my Comet, so that's how they kind of stretch their seasons. But you could also have an acrylic kind of sheeting or even storm panels that were screens in the warm season and more of a Lexan or glass panel in the sort of shoulder seasons. And this wraparound porch some of it could be 3-season and some of it could be open air. And you might have tables and chairs in the dining room, but then maybe high tops outside. If you're really kind of stripping things back, it could be a deck without a roof, and it could be tables and chairs and umbrellas. But that doesn't get you the sort of banquet setting with 150 people under one roof, feeling like they're in one space together. So lots of different options to sort of make that perimeter of the wraparound permeable to let air and breeze through when you want it, or enclose it and be able to control temperature, and also you can have speakers out there so that whoever might be speaking in the main room could be heard in those spaces. And the third scheme was just a smaller porch. Now the cost-cutting mode I was in the other day, I was like, okay, what's the next step? The next step maybe is to make the dining room a little smaller, make the wraparound porch a little bigger. I think the wraparound porch doesn't have as much finish and would be slightly less expensive to build. If the cart barn is under either of these 3 plans, then that wraparound porch is actually probably over the carts. So it's a weatherized, weather resilient floor underneath the deck or something that keeps the carts down below warm and dry. And I didn't draw the basement plan, but we'll next time we'll have some floor plans of a scheme that sort of we talk about a little bit more tonight maybe, or something that's really more refined at the target square footage and target price. Okay.
Gentlemen, the floor is open if you have any questions.
Yeah, by all means, if anybody has any questions or ideas or things that they see are missing or.
I don't like the idea of the porch facing, I like this plan. The other two drawings with the porch facing to the right, I would say.
Yeah.
It all depends on where it goes, of course. If you're putting it where the current building is now / tent in that general area, then a three-way wraparound porch is fine. If it's going on that putting surface, then the porch is not needed.
Right, because
That's looking up towards the 10th tee box, up that way.
Which is elevated.
Which is, we could use it for something else. But that's one plan that I would prefer, and like you have I don't know, the distance of that porch, I know it's just a generic plan, really, the distance of that porch there and to the left. You could have 3 sliding glass doors there.
Right, and this room is 30 feet, so you could easily have, 3 really generous openings there and 4 on the other side.
Yeah.
And then that room really feels more like one. The 2 rooms feel like one.
And it would be easy, whether it be with trusses or whatnot, to that portion heading out that way. The 30-foot section would be uncovered, and this section over here would be covered, but maybe with just roof trusses going out.
So this kind of is covered, and this is an open air.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Combination of best of both worlds.
There you have the tables with the umbrellas. Some people would prefer to sit in the sun.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's drizzling and whatnot, then you're not going to.
Right.
But
What's the size of the deck? You have in a couple of these 40 feet, but what is the size of that deck right there? I see it's 30 feet, and then what does it go out?
Looks like this one, my CAD guy skinny this one up. I don't know.
That might be
He
10,
probably measured
because
the 12
that's probably
here.
a little shy.
I was trying to do 12 foot here.
Okay, that's right. What is that, 12?
Yeah.
And then the other way's 10, I think, because you
Yeah.
have 40 on the plan.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
To get my bearings straight here, where the majority of the views are looking toward the driving range and six.
The driving range is if the parking lot is down this way,
Yep.
right? Then the driving range is sort of off this way.
Uh-huh.
But we could also kind of turn this building a little bit so that this back deck faced 1 and 6, and the long cover deck faced more, or one's on the far left. So this scheme, I extended the deck down and created a sort of another entrance to the pro shop, so that players on the course or on the practice green could come around, come through the deck, and come back to the pro shop if they needed to pick up another glove or whatever they needed. But it was just a means to sort of get through the building a couple different ways. And
I
then,
got a question.
go ahead.
What's the capacity of the dining room, including bar seats?
Well, what I did in these schemes is I put a sort of a bar back, so it would be a big open window with a pass-through bar. It could have stools. That is 20 feet long there. So easily 8 or 9, maybe force 10. But we could also stretch that a little bit if you thought that there should be a bar. And there might be some TVs back there. And then bar storage in the back, bar display in the back. And then I just thought that was better than taking space from the dining room itself. and kind of losing occupancy with the bar there.
So the dining room alone has how many? 80?
Yeah, there's 80 in there, and I just figured that it was inclusive of the bar seats that might be along this line.
And so you add another 10 for the bar seats?
Right, but we last time we talked about, on most days, this dining room's not even gonna be full. And that you might even fold up a couple of tables and chairs and put them away. Or you could have an accordion partition or something that made the room feel smaller. Or the tables and chairs go around the windows, and that's where seated meals are done, and then you could put a couple high tops and other things over by the bar for the people that want to socialize near the bar and see the TV.
This is more contingent on tournaments, fundraisers, and stuff like that. As far as restaurant and public use, I don't think you're gonna do that much. So, I mean, we're looking at accommodations through the golf committee for at least 150 people, but not all inside.
Right.
All right, so
Right.
if you get 90 inside, you still need deck room on the outside protecting the element. And able for that person, whoever's running that fundraiser, has the ability so everybody hears them.
Right, and that's what this the program statement, I was targeting kind of two 1,200-foot spaces
Right.
to accommodate that 80 people and 80 people, inclusive of servers. And that's sort of how we ended up with these two blue and light blue boxes. The darker blue is indoors, the lighter blue at the top of the page is open, covered but open. So that was just to kind of graphically show the area. Now, the second scheme was the same amount of light blue area, and it was just a kind of in a wraparound scheme.
Well, gentlemen, if you don't mind,
You make it
I look at
40
this
feet, it doesn't
scheme,
matter, usually the same
and I would almost flip
All you're doing is the floor and the
the deck,
That can go bigger.
where the shorter part of the deck is looking at the driving range. And the longer part, from what I'm looking at here on my phone, if we're throwing it down into this area, you're gonna have the longer part of the deck looking at the finishing hole, the putting green, the first hole. But that's up for discussion. I'm just,
Right, the kitchen
throwing it out there.
along the right side could pull more, kind of more over into this area, so that a little bit more of the dining room was three-sided. Or the kitchen, we could take this plan and literally mirror it, and the kitchen could be on the practice area / driving range side. And the public side with the pro shop is sort of more
Exactly.
near the 6th and the 10th,
If you were to, right.
okay?
That deck, I mean, it's 12 feet. You could make it 8 feet bigger using the same handrail. All you're adding is the floor joist and the floor. The deck going off the back.
Right.
So you're not adding much cost to it by going 8 feet bigger. Because 12 feet's not big. That's the main part of looking out to the course. You could go almost 20 feet on that. And as Doug said, the deck on the left could be a little bigger.
Well, if that's where the roof overhang is going to be,
Yeah.
and that's the majority of the guests that are part of the indoor-outdoor event, that's where you should have more of the room, especially if you're gonna have 4 sliding doors there or whatever to accommodate the in and out. So, but all that can be tweaked. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just,
One of my other schemes had the bar on the opposite, beyond the kitchen, so that it was closer to the golf course. And then, maybe that's ideal because people at the turn are running in, grabbing something at the bar. And, just coming on and off the deck rather than coming through the front door.
Does that happen?
Yeah, in a skeleton crew situation, I would even put the GM office and the pro office behind the pro shop, make the pro shop even with the bar, so that if you have minimal people, the guy can run the pro shop and pop over if he had to, and do the bar. I mean, when you're looking at March, November, early April, and December, there's not a whole lot going on, so the closer that those operations are to one another, when you have a skeleton crew, will make it that much easier.
So take the bar and put it over.
No, move
Place the pro shop with the bathroom.
slide the pro shop forward, pull the other thing
Oh.
behind.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that would run from one car, just take 3 steps across the hall, and they can enter the bar if they had to.
Right, or as Adam just mentioned, you could switch the pro shop with the men's and ladies' room.
Yeah, I mean, plumbing wise, I don't know if that messes you up, but like, it would be perfect to just switch the pro shop with the men's and ladies' room.
Okay.
Well, it would be nice to have a visual. Like you said, you brought that up, you can have a visual, whether it be windows around the house.
Right.
Probably a full wall.
Yeah.
Kurt, on the next page, you have schemes A, B, C, and D. Do those correlate with any of these plans that, like options 1, 2, and 3 that you laid out?
They more closely align with the program spreadsheet because they're integrated.
Okay.
So the square footages came from one, and then as I created, these budget sheets, which they're numerous, and it starts with the summary. A is very closely aligned with the program statement and the overall square footage, the dining occupancy, the construction cost per square foot, all-in project budget, and then all-in cost per square foot. And we try to look at both to kind of see how much the soft costs and everything are. And before maybe we compare these, if we could just go through sort of one of them to kind of show you how we do this. Again, we copied in the program, and this one is sort of directly from our program statement, and calculates occupancy. Then we took in this area over here, we have a cost per square foot, low estimate, and cost high. Because we have a couple other projects that are similar. We got a couple other projects that might have a little bit more height or a little bit more complexity or different kinds of systems or just, targeting a bigger budget. So I looked at it sort of, what's the lowest it could be? What's the highest it could be? Felt like those were comfortable ranges. Talked with an estimator we're working on another project with. Do these feel like we could be there? The low is you have to be very cautious about finishes and your budget conscious design. The other is sort of a little bit more, I would say, standard design. This is not super fancy, but these square foot numbers are consistent with other projects that are bid in the public realm, which is just, it tends to be, depending on who you ask, 20 to 40% more than a private sector job. It is. The filed sub-bid process is usually a lot more per square foot cost than we see on our private sector jobs. So we associated those rough guesses on cost estimates on the per square foot numbers with each space. And sometimes we know that the cart building is going to be far less expensive than the clubhouse space. And then I came up with a construction number. Then on the following page, page 2, is associated with page 1. And in this upper left-hand corner, oops, I can't see it. There we go. I took the low number from page 1 and the high number, and then I sort of added on to it everything that gets added in a municipal project. I carried a design contingency here just because we haven't done geotechnical testing yet. I'm assuming the soils are pretty sandy and loose gravel. I don't expect to hit ledge. But there's other things that maybe we just haven't thought of.
You're gonna hear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Is it?
Everyone's on a ledge.
Is it? Okay.
That used to be a gravel pit, right?
Yeah, hole 7 was, yeah. Right.
Okay.
Hole 7 was a gravel pit.
So parts of the town are either swamp
Yeah.
or ledge.
Right, so I was worried about soft soils.
Yeah.
Not hard. Okay. Well, that's,
A consideration to take into account.
yeah, so
Yeah.
if we, maybe another reason why if we do some testing soon, or maybe even the superintendent can tell us what the subsoil is 3 feet below the practice green. If we hit rock, then we know maybe we're not going there. But any of the building plans we looked at can be kind of massaged to fit in that space. So I carried a contingency for we don't know it yet, and we haven't designed it yet. Escalation was just, things have been creeping up. Last year was like 4%. We're hearing now things are coming in under budget. I was just talking with some OPMs on a project, and they have a lot of, in fact, the Lakeville Fire Station project. They put out an RFP for construction managers, and they expected 5 or 6, 15 people applied. 15 construction management firms applied, and 130 subcontractors. So there's a little hunger out there. This is political and an economic environment. People want to have a job that's going to last 2 years. It's it's got municipal funds appropriated. It's more of a sure thing than waiting for something to happen in the private sector. So I've reduced the 1 year down to 2, just because of people are telling me that there's less work for people and there's a little bit more appetite, and things are staying close or under budget. So this number 7 is just the modifier upwards on the original number. The other thing that my per square foot cost didn't include is the general contractor's overhead and profit. The general conditions are his supervision, things like trash dumpsters, other things that sort of is over and above the raw cost of the construction and the subcontracts. Profit, I think will attract a lot of people. It might be 4. In insurance at 1.5 to 2, and then assuming the town would like to have a bond on the project, that's just an insurance. And then that gave me the construction contract number. I did waive the permit fee, assuming the town would be nice to us and waive the fee for a building permit. At the bottom of the page, I added other things that the building committee will need to kind of spend money on. Because the project's over $1.5 million, at Commonwealth a couple years ago, we had the OPM law, right? So we'll have to engage with an OPM to help manage the project. Design fees, and I would say 9 is a good number. If I went to all my subs someday and said to them, okay, we're going to do the projects in 2 phases, and we're going to have 2 bid periods, and the construction's going to be 3 years apart, then the fees would probably get extended a little bit, and it might be 10 and a half. But if it's all bid at the same time, and all constructed under the same contract, I think the 9% is doable. Civil engineering, we usually track separately. Then we just had some numbers for geotechnical testing, construction materials testing, fitting out a kitchen, and I took a stab at 40 grand and 50 grand on the high side. Furniture, same thing. Utility back charges, whether the power company charges or something or not. I think you're going to use a lot more power. I don't think you'll get a big back charge from them. Hopefully not. There's no telling until they're done with the design. Miscellaneous expenses. And then here on line 33, I added a 10% contingency of the all-in construction number. And again, I have a high and a low range for this Scheme A is the combined building, carts under a clubhouse, and it's somewhere between 4,927 and just over 6 on the high end. Then I did a mean, because my estimator said, well, you probably got is telling you the low is right and your high is right, and your number may be in the middle. So the mean is there. That means everything in the plan and the program we're thinking is going to be over and above the 3.5 number.
By $2 million. That's the same.
Yeah.
The mean is,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So we looked at the one building, making a bit smaller, and it just wasn't, the B scheme is cutting a little bit, and what I did is I just said, okay, what things can I attack? And your copy is probably not color, because Patrice didn't run them color like I told her to. But, you know, I just started attacking the size of rooms. What can I pare down to start to get this building to be smaller? And in the end of the day, I didn't make it that much smaller. And then in Scheme C, this was looking at 2 separate buildings. So in page 5 is the program and cost calculations for the Scheme C. And I have a construction number here for the first building, and then I have a construction number here for the cart building separately. I think the cart building can be a lot less costly if it's not under the other building. Because we would probably just build it entirely different. Simple pole building, slab on grade, light steel skin, light insulation package. And because it's an S building and it's under 7,500 square feet, we don't have to sprinkle it. So basically, we would have some seasonal cold water there for rinsing and washing off carts, and then we'd have a big electrical service for charging carts overnight.
Kurt, excuse me, that 46 by 90, that will hold whatever number of carts that the course has? Or is-
Yeah, that'll hold 80 carts.
Okay.
And I think the fleet is 72 plus
74.
74.
2 gators and a utility car.
Is that the
A
beer
beverage
cart?
too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beverage car. Did I say 2 utility cars and a beverage car?
Okay. So that should all fit in that space.
So it can't get any smaller, is
Yeah, you know,
No, it can't.
making
Because
the,
you do need to have walking paths.
yeah, you have to have aisles.
Yes.
So they'll be parked in pairs.
Right. We currently have 40 by 60, and they are, it's sardines, no walking space, you gotta take them out one row at a time.
Right.
So yeah, that's, what we have is too small, and that's probably as small as you get, what you have.
There's nothing in here for, as Dana said before, when you have a tournament, you're gonna have to pave 20 feet by 90 feet all around this building, or two ends of the building, like you have now. There's nothing in this cost for, you know, paving or,
Well, in my square foot cost, I was including sort of the immediate site around the building. If, what I should have pointed out, at the top of each page, I put in the relocation of the practice green in the construction of a short game practice area. I have not included those in any of the budgets. We talked around somewhere between 60 and 75,000 here. Tim Garish, the landscape architect, thought it was all 75,000 and maybe pushing 90.
Yes.
To disassemble and rebuild the practice green.
I agree.
I agree with that.
And so, after not including it, I said, well, maybe we should take it up. And I think we have lots of space between sort of the cart drop, the bag drop now, where your septic components are, and the back of the tent area. I think there's plenty of space to do the building. So, it's your choice, but that feels okay to me.
If I'm not mistaken, I was speaking with the superintendent, and he was anticipating that in that process, you probably have to clear, and I don't know, I'm inquiring, you would have to clear the trees beyond the tent down to the first tee, he was thinking?
Maybe.
Open that space up,
Open it a little bit.
and that could,
Because
you know,
they could get damaged during construction. B,
true, but
if
you
put
don't wanna
it
build a
in there
new building and you don't want
this
pine
way,
needles and
you have
everything.
or the trees become a hazard around the building.
Right.
Someday soon.
So if you push that, where you just said,
Mhm.
where's your access coming off of 6?
That's what Tim would have to do, he'd have to come up
That
with.
is a major blockage right there. So if you remove all those trees between 6 and 1, where
Right.
does 6 come? Right into the
Yeah.
clubhouse.
Right.
And there's something that has to be configured in there in order for it to route itself
Right.
from
Get
6
rid of
to
the black
7.
keys on 1.
What's that?
Well,
Get
Tim
rid
would
of the
figure
black
that out.
keys,
There's
yeah.
one, like you said, there's a lot of
Will you
space to
push
be
them?
had over there. I was just thinking that,
You
in
can't get rid of
reviewing it
them
with Steve, we were
completely.
talking about how much
I know,
clearance
but
you would actually have
I don't
to
wanna say
take
how many.
on
Right.
to put in
Yeah,
this
you'd
building
have to
and
push
have
them
it
somewhere.
situated so that
Does every
you
home
don't
have
have
black keys?
future
Every
concerns
has to
of,
have 3,
of,
yeah. There's
of
gotta
trees and
be,
whatnot.
according to the scorecard we have
Yeah.
by MGA, USGA, Richard would know more than
Right,
this.
but the black tees could essentially be 1 yard further than the blue tees.
No.
Well, they could be.
Hey,
There's plenty of courses that do that.
Yeah.
Well-
And I'm not talking every hole, that could just be
No.
one, the first hole.
I wouldn't
Could you
advise
put,
that.
you got a cart path in between the black tees and the blue tees now,
Right.
going to hole number 1.
Right.
You could actually
Yeah,
put
Tim would
6
be able to
right
figure that
into
out.
1,
Go around.
just tee it off, and you're coming up in between the black tees and the blue tees.
Once you
off of
move a
6.
tee box, your whole scorecard changes.
All right, we
and
don't
your
have,
grade
right,
and
we don't have to move it.
everything
I don't
else.
think that we would have to do much of that. I was just stating that there is a lot of space beyond that tent with trees
Where they would go.
that, you know, you could enhance the area.
Right, and where the building does sit, we may want to limb things up so that you can see.
Correct.
It doesn't mean we have to take the whole trip.
Right.
So on Monday, Tim and I, about 9 AM, are coming to rain or shine. I told him rain or shine. To kind of walk around with the CAD site plan and the contours and really think about what if the building were here, what if the building were here, what are the paths around, where is your kart staging area going to be for 144 golfers to hear announcements from a pro and, shotgun start? Where are they going to all be staged? Is that in front or in the back? What's the best place? And then how much room does the practice area really need?
Right.
If we move the carts out, is that enough to do, or should we be trying to push the building more towards 7?
And I don't think that the golf committee has signed on to full-fledged a practice. We'd like to have a practice facility at some point, but if it's gonna change the
And maybe it
overall.
doesn't have to be part of the project,
Right.
but the area is reserved for it.
Right.
I mean,
Well, and-
we're at the point right now where the numbers he's telling us, building a practice facility is egregious if we go down that path.
Right.
Like we're
That would be another
at-
phase.
We're at the edge of the budget already, so I
Gotcha.
think we just put that aside and say, the biggest concern we have now is the clubhouse.
Right. Well,
We don't
my-
want to lose that.
My point in stating that was, we would like to have that, but it's not a
Yeah.
mandatory thing, and definitely not within the scope of this project. But if it requires that the clubhouse has to disrupt that plan, then so be it. The clubhouse is the priority. Agreed.
Right. So, page 7 is scheme D. And this was the 2-building scheme, again, trying to skinny every room up. And I didn't attack it much, but I did make the 40 by 30. I started to look at, okay, what happens if I make it a couple feet smaller? How fast do I start losing people? And then I said, well, you guys wanted that dining space for 150 people at minimum, so you can't make it a whole lot smaller than the 40 by 28 to accommodate that. So I hear that square footage, 1,100, 1,120 is about the minimum you could go on the dining room and the wraparound porch. So those are sort of key numbers.
Do you, just real quick, what's the percentage of building versus decking? Is it 60/40, 50/50, roughly? 70/30?
Well, I guess.
I'm just looking
Yeah,
at
this
rough
one's
number.
50/50.
All right, yep, it's all
These,
you.
all the.
Just trying to
the
wrap my
scheme
mind
A, B,
around
C,
it.
and D are all like kind of 50/50.
Mhm.
In the next scheme, E, I said, okay, we're gonna start to attack this number, and I think, you know, a porch,
That's
That's-
page 9 you're talking about?
yeah, sorry. That was, this was the scheme E, and I was like, okay, well, how small could we make the porch? And it's really about accommodating 144 diners, right? So it doesn't really get that much smaller. To make the project small, you really got to take it out of the kitchen, the walk-in, or maybe the walk-in comes out of the building and it's in a fenced yard that's adjacent to the building. It's not ideal, right?
What if we took a little out of the dining room interior and made that more outdoor seating, because the finishes would be cheaper, and we're not
Balance it
using.
that way, so smaller dining room for 70 or even 60, and then have that outdoor space that,
You could grow that at less of a cost,
Right.
basically.
right?
Yeah, and when you don't have outings, you don't need a really big dining room
So
anyway.
go smaller on the dining room, go bigger on the porch pavilion, deeper, so they can have 2 tables in depth out there.
Another issue we do have, is that there's no gas line from that street going down to that
No, there's
golf
no
course.
gas, right.
No. So you either come up with propane or electricity. As in kitchens, electricity, as far as
Yeah, right.
stoves, is terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. The price of propane, I know it's up there at this point, because I have it at my house. So that's something else that's gonna be as far as considering what kind of equipment, what kind of room you have, because there's, like I said, there's no gas. So that an issue. somewhere
Same for hot
down-
water,
What's that?
same for hot water.
Yeah. And as far as the walk-in goes, you need nothing really huge, and you don't really need a freezer attachment to it. They don't do, you need you can have a freezer,
I have a
2 tables.
Freezer or a
size
cabinet?
freezer.
Yeah, just reach down. You don't need a freezer attached to the walk-in. The walk-in, could be efficient for 144 people. The freezer doesn't have to equal 144 people. It just has to equal things that, like rolls and stuff like that you don't,
Right.
you just pull them out of the freezer, that stuff. You're not looking at putting a big
Yeah, we're not getting
variety
beef.
of meats or anything else in there. Convenient stuff that you can get out quick that you're gonna be able to use.
You could do just units,
Right, well, right. The walk-in, you have to have something big.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be something huge, but you have to have, the freezer, no, you can put
You
two,
could those.
We currently have a refrigerator-sized freezer in the closet, but you'd use a little bit bigger than that. And that basically holds hot dogs, hamburgers, linguiça, hot dog, sausages, and breads, and breaded chickens and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that Southers Marsh has their walk-in freezer stuff in the basement. Is that something that's doable in this situation?
That is. So it kind of would reduce the footprint upstairs and put a couple more things downstairs. As long as, we haven't shown any stairs internal, but we could. Go ahead.
So let me just pose this question to John. So what do you think you can reduce down to? You don't need a walk-in freezer, or need a walk-in?
you don't need a freezer.
You don't need a freezer?
No, you need an adequate refrigeration system, which would be a walk-in. And I don't suggest you put it downstairs, because it gets neglected once it's down there. I don't know. I mean, it
6 by
depends
8?
on how many, I mean, we're looking at more or less, I'm not looking at daily people coming in, I don't know, Dana, what did we do?
What was that walk-in truck I had? That was perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
I had
It
a
was
walk-in
From
cooler,
Budweiser.
refrigerator,
Yeah.
plugged in outside. It was basically a trailer, and it was probably about 10 pallets.
Yeah, you need it bigger than 6 by 8.
What's that?
You need it bigger than 6 by 8.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just for the shelving in there.
Offhand, I don't know what this,
Because we put basically essentially food on one side, beers on the other.
But, so we're just talking though about 64 square feet, is that what I'm trying to get to? I mean, what is the savings?
Yeah, it's not that much.
It's a small.
Right, but in this,
freezer and
in this
electric.
scheme, I pared the building down to, just 3740. And I think that's getting to the right number, with the cart barn in the project too. So the cart barn here is probably in the mid-eights, and the clubhouse is, here is down to $1.6 million plus the modifiers, which combined here is, we're at 3.9 as the mean on this one. So I think we're getting to the right square footage, we're getting close to the budget. And then I think here, to get that, we really start playing with what things can be up, what things can be down. The golf pros storage could be in a storage room that potentially is either in the basement, or maybe it's a mezzanine in an attic. There's a little stair up to it, because we'll have a roof truss system. We can definitely create a mezzanine storage attic for dry goods or shirts
Would that
and.
be walk-in?
There'd be a stair up to it. Yeah.
Because, if we needed space, would you be able to walk in the attic?
Yeah.
Because maybe you put the offices upstairs and use that space downstairs for the dining facility. And give yourself a little bit more square
Right.
footage for the customers.
Right.
Is that a possibility?
You run into the ADA law, right? So if you have business offices upstairs, they're supposed to be public. But,
Gotcha. All right.
storage is things that are not part of the public access are better to have in those remote areas.
It's gotta be a name, just name it right.
Yeah. But there could even be a dormer up there, so you have some daylight. And
Yeah, you can have like a house up there for yourself when you work over there.
for the,
What is this?
when you're on the late shift and the early shift.
Does this kitchen, I don't know a lot about this, the size of it. I guess what I'm gonna get at is what do we expect out of this kitchen? Like, so for outings, are you still outsourcing the food for the outings? Or are you gonna have it cooked in this kitchen?
That's something that needs to be discussed.
Right, but, so that's an important factor to how big the kitchen is that's built, because if we don't need as big of a kitchen because you're just outsourcing it, maybe we can reduce size in the kitchen, you
Yeah,
know?
I knew we were gonna have that conversation. I also wanted to ask about dishwashing.
Well, that's another issue.
That's a good question. Right, my plan was, and because the back nine has a full kitchen, as well as Pokoi, and it's my understanding that they still outsource their events to other people, and then they do their internal
Right.
meals and whatnot for the patrons.
And that would be my recommendation, to outsource the events, but weekly play for golfers, we'd have a restaurant.
Okay. And
You know-
480 square feet is a good, and again, I'm questioning this because I don't know a lot about this, like, is that large for just that? Because, I mean, what are we talking for people coming in to get food just on normal play?
Well, I think if you're outsourcing that, you still have to have the facilities for them to come in, because some people
Yeah.
do their work
Yeah.
in
On
their own
premises.
place.
Correct.
Other people bring the raw product in
Okay.
and finish it right there and then.
Right.
So it's a, you know, I don't know.
My current program is very successful, and they come in vans, as I told you the last meetings, they wheel it in, set it up,
20
serve
by,
it,
24.
pack it up,
That's a
put it
big
back in
one.
the vans, gone.
Yeah.
They do all the setup, the cleanup,
But you
and they
gotta
do all their
cook
cooking on their own premises, because they have a commercial grade kitchen.
Right.
And catering is one of their revenue sources. So I would foresee us to start out in that direction, and then if we wanted to move into some other format, we could kind of devise a plan and segue the operation in that move. Because currently, we don't have a chef or waiters or bartenders or anything of the sort. We basically have a handful of retired guys, a handful of bad boys, high school kids, and this place has reached a top tier level of success, well, with basically 15 people, and not including the maintenance staff, so.
Dave, getting back to the kitchen, has any of you guys looked at menus from other places? Like what they have?
Have we looked at them? No.
Okay,
No, we
so
haven't.
what I would suggest that, not including fundraisers, banquets, or tournament play, just look at what these kitchens are providing. It's very basic. It's very, very basic.
And it works
Yeah, and it works.
for a
You
muni.
need a fry later,
Yeah,
some burgers.
I mean, you can
Well,
buy
our
meals.
general,
People expect burgers and fries, I'm sorry.
Right.
No,
Something simple.
there's, yeah, you gotta have a, yeah,
I don't
there's.
think we need a fry later.
well,
I
our
would have to say no.
conversations,
No fry later,
No,
that's
you
just
need
trouble.
it. You need it.
our conversations up to this point
Chef Dana doesn't
has
want
been for the restaurant, at least, you know, please, everyone chirp in, I mean, not chip in, but has been to serve the golfers.
Right.
You know, early on in our meetings, we kind of threw out the idea of, you know, having weddings or things, and renting out the place. You know, keeping it simple for the golfers. The outstanding thing is the outings that we have that bring in 144 people. And I think Dana mentioned it's like 24 times a year. So we're trying to accommodate that. But really, when we step back, I think our thoughts have been, you know, to accommodate the golfers and keep it in the 60, 70 person range, because, you know, you're gonna have flow. People come in, if, all right, I got an 8:30 tea time, you know, let me just backtrack a step. We haven't really considered how we're gonna offer the restaurant. You know, is it gonna be subbed out? Are we gonna have town employees now? We're gonna have
That's
to get
another-
union employees? And you're gonna,
I'll-
I'm not even going down that road
Dave,
yet.
I'll bring this up.
Okay.
You bring a bar in, you're gonna sell more food.
All right.
If you have a bar that people can sit at, and there's tables around that little lounge area, whatever you wanna call it or make it, you're gonna serve more food.
TVs.
Right now, we don't have a bar area. We have
We have a bar.
Yeah, I don't even wanna call it that, but we have beer and things like that, but
No, I was gonna let you finish up. At Resi, my experience has been that you're right, but also if you have food, you have people that stay at the bar.
that stay at the bar?
Yeah,
Oh,
because the
yeah.
biggest complaint that we had at Resi, we don't have a kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
That little thing
Well, yeah,
downstairs, right?
I agree
She's
with
only
that.
there
It's
1 or
still
2 days
that
a week.
day. But when you have food, you don't make a lot of money off of food. You make it off the bar.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. That's where you make it.
Yeah.
Now, just to make a comparison, to make, just for that location that I'm at, it's just that they never, ever had anything but a small
It's a grill.
grill, and this woman now that's there has a fryer that she has to put outside because by law, they don't have a sprinkler system. That's another issue. When you put it, you have to put an ANSO system in the kitchen, and that is not cheap.
So we've hovered around Souther's Marsh a couple
Right.
of times in these discussions, and I've played there dozens of times.
Yeah.
We talk about what they offer for food,
Right.
what they offer for bar space, and what they offer for events, which is
Right.
most of the stuff that I go down there for either work or functions. And they gotta figure it out, like, I don't think we need to go too much further away from that, like, the
No, you're
pub
right.
food, you know.
Richard, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say it.
Do they operate?
So that everybody hears it.
Yeah.
Do they have their own
The
kitchen
thing they do,
staff?
the thing with, remember Dana, we went, they started off small.
Yes.
It was no bigger than this, and they expanded, because I went
Yes.
way back when, we
Over a
went,
decade ago.
yeah. But, I mean, that's what you want. But what I suggest is that you guys look at menus from, I went on in captain's course, look at that. Look at Southern Marsh, look at Pecoy Brook, and what they're serving just the public golfers. You're not gonna get people off the street to come down that road to have a meal, believe me. The only way that's gonna happen, if you're playing golf and your wife and stuff says, hey, why don't we have a few burgers here and a few drinks? You're not gonna get that kind of business.
We shouldn't
Right.
expect it, right?
Right.
We might get 2% of that. 'Cause
Right.
Allendale's doing it now, right? I saw a post on Facebook the other day.
Yeah.
That people are actually going to Allendale to have drinks
Oh, yeah,
and
they-
burgers.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Another course to look at is Old Scotland Links
Right.
outside of, well, near Bridgewater or whatever town
Right,
it's in.
yeah, Bridgewater.
They're very similar to this kind of operation, a municipal course, keep it simple at the restaurant area. They have cold beer, they have a place to sit, they have TVs.
Right.
Yeah, don't overthink this one. I mean, the biggest hurdle is the expenditure, the size of the building, let's see. I like his idea of the outdoor space maybe being bigger than the inside space to save on the cost per square foot, because we've proven that we can narrow that down with the cart barn by lowering the keeping the square footage the same, but lowering the cost per square foot, and you save 200,000.
Right.
Things like that. I think there's some value in heading in
That's
that
definitely the
direction.
direction. 100%.
If, to just take that kitchen thing a little further, right now, you're all disposable, paper plates, napkins, everything. Do you think it stays that way?
Well,
Or
I don't know.
if
I'd have
a
to see
caterer
what-
comes, they can bring that with them and take it all with them too?
I gotta tell you, I've been locked in a trailer for 23 years. I'd have to go see what they actually have at Southern Marsh. Do they put it on dishes, or do they have like high-end disposable stuff?
But even if you have a, a 3-bay sink and a,
You're gonna have all of
So
that.
a Hobart machine which you can slide trays in, you can wash it. You can have that, and the caterer can use it, and they can either stack the plates away that either you own and let people use, or they just bring everything. If they're doing a plated dinner 20 times a year,
It's different.
Sorry.
So I think the answer, your question was, is 20 by 24 too big? If it doesn't have a dishwashing area, yeah, I think you can make it smaller. But if you are going to do dishes, or you want to be able to give the caterer the opportunity to do dishes and wash pots, then I think the 480 is close, yeah.
Now, when you say to do dishes, to have a dishwasher, or just the sinks to wash the dishes? Because you should definitely have sinks. I mean,
Oh,
that's-
you're going to
You gotta
have a
have-
3-bay sink.
Yes.
And it's just, do you have, a Hobart or Jackson or one of the other big high-temperature machines that you can push in a tray of glasses and a tray of plates every 30 seconds?
What do you think of that, John?
Well, here's, first off, you cannot wash dishes in a 3-bay sink. There's a temperature regulation, there's a dry area you need, there's a storage area you need. If a caterer comes in, and I've done catering, you can rent plates. If the caterer comes in, their cost the cost per meal will go up.
Yeah.
Or they come in now with heavy-duty plastic plates that you just throw out.
Yeah.
As far as personal, serving golfers, you can get away with,
The basket and then,
there you go.
Yeah.
Baskets and paper.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you can recycle the basket.
What about cups, are you talking just cans at the bar and not having like pint glasses, because you need something to wash the pint glasses,
Yeah,
pint
well,
glasses?
And the bar could have its own dishwasher, or
That's
they
what
could be
would
sent
happen. The
back.
bar would have a dishwasher
have-
just for
Glassware.
glassware. If the thing's about this big,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah.
it. So, and I would
It's gonna
suggest
happen, because I
that.
don't think this bar is very big.
Well,
And, maybe the kitchen gives up space and the bar gets better.
Right.
Bigger.
Well, I mean, I think, like, kind of what everyone was saying is you make more money when you're selling more alcohol and, you know, then you do selling food, so it might be a good compromise to, you know, make the kitchen a little bit smaller, make the bar a little bit bigger, maybe a few more TVs or whatever, people kind of hang around the drinks and.
And while we're on the subject of the bar, I was gonna ask, is the bar stools in the dining room okay? Or would you like to have a bar lounge that is separate?
In the dining room.
In the
Yeah,
dining room.
okay, you don't need two spaces?
You don't need that.
Or some sort of doors or anything like that?
They have at Southern Masters.
The bar's right in the middle of the dining area.
Okay.
Not the middle, but it's
It's like kitty corner.
It's off to the right.
Yeah.
I think that's where you
But it's
sell
in the-
food,
it's in the
so
same
maybe
space.
open.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So this
Accessible.
Marsh is
Yeah, they'd probably-
similar dining room to what you had. You had the bar squared off this way.
Yeah.
So this Marsh is on a 45-degree angle,
Yeah.
looking straight out to the whole entire room.
Yeah, right.
And right in the back of the bar is the kitchen facility, where it's you scoot right around, it's right there.
That's
You have
what it
all
should
your
be.
alcohol stacked up, you have a TV up there,
Some of this space.
rather than
Over there.
in the corner.
Yeah.
You can have this.
I mean, you're talking, they wanted a separate bar lounge
Some of that off.
so that they could have a seated dinner for 80 people in that room, and golfers could come and go from the bar. Now, everybody wants to sit and eat at the bar, and there's waiting line to sit at the bar,
Used to that
and
stuff.
nobody wants to sit in the dining room. So the people are outside or at the bar, and nobody's in the dining room, so.
Well, gentlemen, I think a lot of information has been presented tonight.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, to say the least.
How do you, how do we get some real
Go ahead.
numbers? I know everything you've done, but it's real numbers, but
I think, I'm taking some notes.
can,
I'm gonna refine the plan, and when I have a little bit better plan and a little bit, some elevations that go with it, and a little 3 or 4 page outline of how the building's gonna be constructed, I can give it to my estimator, who
yeah.
will kind of do a little bit more, a deeper dive, and we'll break it down by division of electrical, mechanical. And again, it'll be square foot numbers, but it'll be broken down, we'll be able to see where those costs are. And after meeting with Tim on site on Monday, I think we'll have a little bit better definition of how many linear feet of cart paths or how many square feet of hardscape we might have around the building, which would go into that outline. And so I would think in 2 weeks with a revised plan and then a site plan, we could get it to an estimator to crunch a number to give me a much more dialed in number.
You know, I know somebody might ask a little while ago about how much of this budget is, and I think Wayne says, maybe around the building, you're talking about shrubbery and whatnot. I don't know if there's anything in that in there for this. Aesthetically, once this project is completely done, what budget is taken care of putting grass
Paving.
down
Paving's
and making
the
it
biggest one.
like done?
I would say the operating budget
Yeah.
of the golf course.
There's a
You
one
think so?
point something surplus, right? I mean, I imagine that a lot of that,
I would think
what's in the accounts right now can probably,
that would be nice.
I'd like to keep, because the budget's so tight, I'd like to keep the
That's
limit of
outside
work
of our realm.
really tight to the building.
Okay.
And,
I was under the impression.
Because a good portion of that now is,
There is,
I'm 100% in favor of it, is using Dan and his guys, the town guys.
Well, I can't make, or I don't believe we can make that commitment.
That's
I
true.
agree with you that it would be helpful if they're able to do some things at the course, but, you know,
Yeah.
from what I hear of the DPW, they're understaffed, they're, you know, I know they have a machine that can do 6-foot paving, you know, they couldn't do a parking lot or anything to that scale. And then you gotta work it out, you know, through the system. But I agree that as
Yeah.
much help we can get from the DPW, like they have been, they did some cart paths last year, came out beautiful,
doing some this
you
year.
know, and, but to start relying on them,
No, okay,
I
I know.
don't believe they can
Different.
get, everything we would like them to do.
If we weren't so tight in this budget, we would probably have a landscape design as part of it, right? And then we would have to bid that out as well, but because the
Right.
building is so tight, it's gonna be hard to
yeah, I
to
think
even
the
pay for our landscape design.
landscape design, as Tim and I have talked about it, is more of the pathways, the flow, to make sure that, it's obvious where you drive and where you don't, where you walk and where you park your car, where you leave your golf bag. And then we talked last time about somehow kind of trying to discourage or prevent the carts from running out into the course. I mean, into the parking lot. So I talked to Tim about that. But beyond the cart paths, there'd be some strip of grass and maybe some foundation plantings around the building. But the rest of the landscape, around the hardscape that surrounds the building, everything beyond that, other than a 10-foot swath of grass, would be sort of future golf course improvements rather than project. Yeah, he can go grass in the parking lot with enough fertilizer.
So my question, Kurt, would be, how do you want us to handle this next?
Well, I
Are you
think
upfront with
I
us?
kind of answered my own question by going through these different scenarios, that the building has got to get down to the 4,000 feet or 3,700 square feet.
Okay.
to-
Gentlemen, how do you feel?
The other thought-
Working that way? No. I
Yeah.
mean, we started out
I
at
think we're in the
You
3,200.
have to come in with,
I would
you have
say-
to, because you get.
Is it out of the question that we
Budget.
maybe raise our budget slightly?
I think Dave was pretty firm on the number.
Well,
Who's that?
Dave's
Mr.
plan.
Flynn.
Oh,
Well, right,
Regards to-
we had that meeting a couple meetings ago, we came in at 375, he ran the numbers, you'll be paying about the same amount of money that you're paying now for the course, you come in
Right.
with that 350.
I think
I
that was
looked
the
at his
consensus.
notes, it was 410 for a few years, and then it digressed down from there, so, you guys gotta put the numbers up.
But it
Because we-
was also a short borrowing period, right? So it was a
Well, he
quick
was talking about 10
10 years now?
10
Okay.
years, right,
Okay.
exactly, so.
There was some
you know,
crazy number like 3 years in the very beginning, and that
Yeah.
wasn't gonna happen.
Right.
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 Yeah,
There was
the
a-
first number I heard was 3 to 5 years, and I was like,
Yeah, that's
Right, well.
That's a big payment.
Well, I guess my point is if the numbers for the course prior to this project were about 700,000 in revenue for the year, and we're paying 350 or so for the current note, that note's gonna be gone by the time this is starting. That new, Dave, he mentioned saying something along the lines of, it wouldn't change, the 350 would probably be what we would be paying per year for this project at a $3.5 million loan, right? Am I correct so far? So we still have, off of the old numbers, $350,000 in profit per year on the course, and that's the old numbers, like, when you're selling all kinds of alcohol, more alcohol, you have a bar, this, that, whatever, like, your revenue could be a lot higher, and I'm just saying, like, if you can afford an extra 100,000, 200,000 in payments per year, then you might be getting a much bigger building and what you want.
I don't think they would be comfortable on that gamble, after going through 25 years of establishing our market and the product, and the revenues that we have. I don't think they would want to bank the future with an aggressive number. I think that the number was set because that's what we've been achieving, and that's where they were comfortable moving forward with. I mean, if things, the crystal ball, I mean, nobody knows where the future is going, and I don't think they would be, I don't think
I just wanna
the
throw it out
selectmen
there.
as well as the golf committee would be comfortable putting it out there too much further.
Now, you guys know that once this course is paid for, with, what's it, 2 years left?
2027.
Okay. That money that we make at that course will get dispersed through this town.
Well, that's an assumption, but
You know what I mean? We've been
I wouldn't
surviving
deny that
without anybody paying a cent as far as tax goes.
Right.
And we've been surviving, supporting ourselves.
Well, it's an enterprise fund,
Right,
right?
exactly.
So I understand
But
that,
once
yeah.
that is done, this new ball comes into play.
Mhm.
What do these town people and what do the selectmen expect?
Right.
Do we still fund the fire department? Do we still have to give money to the school department? Do we have to give money to the DPW? Because there's money there.
Right, all those questions, I guess will be answered in the future, but our deal is to design a clubhouse.
Yeah, I know.
And bring it to
Yeah,
the town.
and I think
And I
they-
understand, you know.
The money part will come into play, so it's, designing it is,
So, okay.
John, the selectmen know that this is going to cost us money, and they expect to have a period of time, in years, to pay for it.
Right.
We have heard them say things like, eventually we could buy a fire truck.
Bingo.
Right, but I think it's clear, and we've said it at this meeting, and I'm sure they've said it in other meetings, that if we're gonna build a clubhouse, there's gonna be a period of time where we're gonna have to pay down that note. And then resources will go back to the town. At least that's how I've interpreted the conversations I've been a part of so far.
Well, I
And they
hope it's
also
like that.
said too, maybe the
I
food
hope
beverage
so.
doesn't take off in the first 2 years.
Well, it's gonna have
Maybe-
to be like
maybe
that,
it
otherwise
takes
the
a
course
while
won't be able
to
to
get there.
sustain itself.
Well, gentlemen, I want to get back to Kurt. How we want to handle this? Are you gonna,
Well,
you gonna come back in a couple of
I
weeks?
think, I think
You know, and
this scheme can be pared back to under 4,000 gross square feet. Maybe we move a couple, some storage in the attic, some storage in the basement. We drive the cost of the cart barn down as low as we can get it. And push whatever savings we have back into this building.
okay.
And not by making it bigger again, but just making it nicer.
Before Kurt goes on Monday to go through it, do we want to wrap our arms around, okay, stop looking at it as the separate cop bond is the thing to look at? And do we want to say, all right, we're definitely not going to put, like, in a perfect world, we put everything up on that putting green. But to me, budget-wise, I don't think that's in the cards. So, I don't know what you guys think, but do we want to put him in more of a direction with that before he goes over there and he's looking at different possibilities for everything, you know?
And if we keep the putting green, then I think there is the argument for flipping the pro shop around so that you sort of check in, go to the putting green, come back. Because the desk is really acting as the starter, and you don't have somebody at the first tee.
Well, we do.
Do you? Oh, yeah, okay.
But to have a visual of it probably wouldn't be,
Oh, that would
wouldn't be
good.
bad.
And flip, and
Right, so those two items are fighting each other. We can see if we can make that work so that the pro shop can have a little bit more of a panoramic
So you're
view.
talking the dining room and the patio would face the parking lot?
no, flip it this way. Flip it.
Yeah.
The left of that map up there now, plan, is looking at the driving range.
No, I know, but the pro shop's on the bottom left.
Right, so
If you're
if you
looking
look
at the
at
pro
all
shop,
that-
looking at one, it'd have to go on the top right.
Yeah, and here it has, just a glancing view,
It's one.
But maybe the building turns.
Yeah,
And the kitchen has its back to the parking lot.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Especially for deliveries.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to do on Monday was, Dana, do you have a copy of the last septic improvement plan? Or should I plan on going to town hall and looking for that on Monday?
Board of Health has it. I've seen it.
Okay.
They have it. And, it's,
Yeah, I thought I saw that on.
Um,
yeah, you
Could I borrow
have
that?
it, you know?
Yeah, one of the meetings I looked at.
Yeah, it's from the
Thanks,
original. Because septic is in
I can
front
return,
now.
could I scan that, and make a copy, and return it to Dana on
Pipes
Monday?
are up on 7.
Oh,
Seven and 10.
get her back to you, no?
Right, I was told that you more than likely wouldn't have to move the septic. It was
I can get
good
more.
where it was,
And if we,
and there was,
No, I'll get this back to you.
I might have a piece of paper.
they said they think we're going
Know where everything is?
I'm
oh,
figuring it out.
yeah.
Yeah, it runs up to the seventh hole,
Yeah.
I believe. In front. Of the front
I
trail.
believe it also keep the trail, if it was behind the trail where we're building, we could keep the trail in place and not have to, throw it for those years that we're building,
Well, gentlemen, that was one of the, Jeff touched upon it. Do we want to have a meeting next week and talk about what was presented to us tonight? From now with smaller, refine it, try to get it into okay instead of Kurt coming back with 4 plans every week? Or we wait for 2 more weeks, and we have another meeting, and
I'm away next
3
week,
weeks?
not that that would matter, but, because we still have a quorum, but I can't be here next week.
Okay,
Only 2 weeks.
all right.
He's gonna.
I think we'll refine the plan, we'll have a site plan that goes with it. And it might just be, look, we're gonna look at moving the kitchen.
Okay.
What are the chances we could solicit for more money? I mean,
That's not really our pitch. You know,
Well-
our pitch is to come up with something that's gonna work for the
I
town.
understand, right.
So if we wanna make, say, if we collectively wanna say, all right, we wanna bump it up, we wanna make it 4,000, we wanna go with this plan, we can put that forward, and then bring it,
Right,
you
not that
know,
we
hand it
solicit
off
for
to
more
the
money,
golf
but
committee,
this-
and,
If we're at 3.5 and it's very tight at that number, well, 4.5 maybe it wouldn't be as tight.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, but
I know.
it's gonna go from us to the golf committee, and if the golf committee's not comfortable with that number, then it's just gonna die there anyway.
Well, the
It's,
golf
you know,
committee will
Too
look
small is not good. And I don't mean the.
I agree.
You know,
What was
but
What was that?
you don't wanna, we don't wanna go,
Don't wanna
we don't
underbuild.
wanna, yeah, we don't wanna.
Well,
Yeah.
we can design a building that costs $4.5 million. The town doesn't have to accept it. We can give them multiple options. So we could go ahead, he's given us options in that space already, right?
Right.
So I think we're there with the design part of it, and then the people that give us the money will make those decisions for us. Is that
yeah,
how this town is
absolutely.
working? Because I mean, we have a design in here for $6 million.
$6 million.
Yeah.
Right, scheme A with above and below is coming in at
Yeah, I think it just
you know,
needs to be-
5.5 million.
We need to present it to whoever's making that decision on the final figure of the loan as to what you're losing, or what you're starting with at the top number and what you're losing on the way down. That needs to be written up pretty clearly to whoever is making that decision. That way they know what they're looking at.
And remember, we use this to base our initial budget on.
Experts in
So,
the field.
you know, which came through, the town paid 25 grand, or the golf committee paid 25 grand for this report that we have. We needed a starting point. That's the numbers that come through, you know, so that's how we started with 3.5 or 3.75 initially. If we're finding out we can't get what,
And I think we're close to that.
I understand, it doesn't have to be set in stone. I mean, this is gonna be built 2-3 years down the road. You know, I don't know how much you anticipate the price going up.
Prices
No
always-
comment, no
Should always
comment.
anticipate.
Prices always go up.
He coming up right there from the record.
No comment.
You're gonna be here or on?
Redacted video.
I don't think they're gonna come back and say, hey, it's coming in 3.25.
There is a little
Yeah.
correction happening.
Okay.
Or not correction,
Right.
slowdown in the increases happening. The last couple of years have been, you know, 4 and 5% growth per year. I mean, yeah, you know, inflation. And it's been that way for, you know, maybe 5 years, and then all of a sudden, that's a massive increase over where it used to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't, 5 years ago, we would have said this building on the high end was $350 a foot.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about 600.
So those are the things that I still think we're in the process of developing, you know, before we present. Because that was after Kurt's done it, just wanted to talk a little bit about our timeline and, you know, where we stand with that. So, you know, so we want to handle it that, Kurt, you come back in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
with
and
more-
we'll have a site concept that goes along with the building, with one building and the 2 building. And that'll show you sort of how much of the proposed or future short game practice area the cart barn would take up if it were independent. And, you know, maybe that's when you see that site plan, you're gonna say, geez, you know, for another $100,000 or $200,000, can you get it under? Because we want to save that piece of the site for future.
Right. Okay. Good, all right, that good? All right. Well, thank you, Kurt.
Thank you for your time.
So we'll see you, you want to set a time? We
Yeah,
can set a time.
Do you guys want to get back to the Tuesdays where you were? Or does the Thursdays work well?
How does it all sit?
Thursdays work better for me.
Anybody else? Difference? Doesn't matter?
Either day's fine.
I'm good as long
Thursday.
as, as long as it doesn't run into my golf committee.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was,
Yeah, I had to-
are you guys always on Thursdays?
Yeah.
You're always on Thursdays, so.
Do Wednesdays?
But not
Can
2
we do
weeks.
Wednesdays?
Oh, I don't know. What was the
May 1st.
consensus for next meeting? when you-
Maybe I left before they finished.
I wouldn't think so. We
Right.
go by the month, so I would maybe the middle of May or the
Right,
third week of
exactly,
May.
exactly.
That's what I'm thinking for our meeting. So there's 2 weeks there. I don't think we'll have anything in 2 weeks.
So Thursday, May 1st, is that
Yeah, that's good for me.
5:30, good for everyone?
Right here?
Yeah, right here. So,
We checked that this room will be available. Is it always available?
It is for the most part. I'll
Okay.
check tomorrow.
Thank you.
yeah. And that way we can accommodate that. Good. All right, the last thing I just wanted, we have a discussion back, just gotta get my notes correct. Bear with me 1 second. At our February 25th meeting, which we approved the minutes, we came up with a deadline time of May 23rd, completion. We made the motion, the anticipated completion of this committee. But after now that we've gone, we've had a gap, we've had about 5 weeks. I believe that we need to push that forward so we can accomplish this. And from Kurt's comments and the timeline, I'm looking more toward like the middle of July that we were able to finish this up. Because today's April 15th, you got May 15th a month, June 15th, so we're in, what, 8 weeks from there, and then somewhere by July 15th, having a report written that we can pass it on, which gives us basically another 3 months. 6 more weeks actually than what we anticipated. But we're not having weekly meetings like we first anticipated. We're having the bi-weekly, so I don't know how that, I see a lot of head shaking, if that's okay, or...
Yeah, well, what's the deadline for that we need to record that for the
Well-
fall meeting?
Well, if we wrap it up by July 15th, that gives them August 15th, September, October, and November, 4 months to take it from this point, if they're gonna bring it up at the fall town meeting. There's been nothing set in stone and when they're gonna, push it through, but present it to the town. And, but that would give 4 months on that end. And if that's not enough, then they would have a special town meeting or wait until
The following.
the next spring meeting, which would be in May of next year. Because I don't know what the planning is, but, the course still has to pay off the note. That puts you into 2027. You're looking at construction 2027, the fall of 27 through the winter, so you're open in the spring of 2028. Because it's not gonna happen quicker than that. They're not gonna, start construction next year, I don't believe, at least that's the impression I got.
I think July's
So-
okay.
So,
Yeah.
all right, July good?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I entertain a motion to extend the anticipated completion of this committee to July 15th?
I make a motion for that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. All right, well, gentlemen, that concludes our meeting for this evening. Unless there's other comments? Otherwise, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.